Hello, everybody. If you are just joining us, welcome to this year's Education-Led Growth Summit. We are so excited that you've joined us today to hear about all things education and growth. My name is Audrey, and I'll be your host for this session and many more throughout the day. And tonight, or right now, you'll be hearing from the team at the American Arbitration Association all about the evolution of their education program over this past year and how they're building AI literacy. But before we go there, oh, my slides are out of order. Before we go there, I want to cover off some housekeeping items for you all. So first and foremost, as you may have heard when you jumped on, this webinar is being recorded. The recording will be sent to your inbox at the end of this session. So no worries if you have to jump off early, you will have access to the recording at the end. If you need closed captions, those are available at the bottom of your screen. So look to the Zoom toolbar, you'll find the icon there. We do want to hear from you all, so thank you for joining us. We don't want to just have this be a one-way conversation. So feel free to add commentary in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Have a little shout out to the team if you're joining us. We'd love to hear from you. And at the end of this session, we will have time for Q&A. So if you have questions, you're curious about the information that's being shared, please direct your questions to the Q&A box and not to the chat. We want to make sure we keep your questions separate so that they don't get lost. So questions are definitely welcomed, but go ahead and put those in the Q&A box. And lastly, if you have a big aha moment throughout this session or you want to continue the conversation online, please do so using the hashtag Education-Led Growth Summit 2025 and tag Intellum because we want to make sure that we hear from you. All right. That was a lot of intro, but now I'm excited to turn it over to this amazing team. So I'm going to let Eric Dill introduce the speakers for this session. And with that, Eric, I'll turn the mic over to you and I am going to go away. So team, take it away.
That's great, Audrey. Thank you so much. I'm very excited and delighted and frankly honored to be with you all today to share some of our story with you. I serve as Senior Vice President and Chief People Officer at the American Arbitration Association. And in my role, part of my role is to help steer the professional development of over 800 employees and our 5,000, actually almost 5,500 mediators and arbitrators. We've got an extremely talented team. You're going to hear from a few of our folks today. And I'm very excited that I'm joined today by Sandy Barrett, who's our Director of Learning and Development, Earl Hassel, who's our Vice President of Education Services, and Michael Rodriguez, who's our Education Program Liaison. We're kind of an interesting organization. We're nearly 100 years old. We'll celebrate our 100th anniversary next year. And I like to say that we're a 100-year-old startup. We're very nimble. We're not your typical 100-year-old company. We tend to lean into things and be first adopters. And I think you'll hear a little bit about that in our story. We're also relatively unique in what we do. We operate in what's called the ADR or Alternative Dispute Resolution Services area. And essentially, we administer hundreds of thousands of arbitration and mediation cases each year. We've done that since our inception. We continue to do that, and we've expanded our scope. We operate in all 50 states in the U.S., and we have a small office in Singapore, but we do have an international division as well. So our mission since our inception has been to provide fair, effective dispute resolution and pre-dispute resolution, as I said, through the effective use of mediation, conciliation, and arbitration. But doing that work really depends on something deeper. It depends on the growth and development of our people. We know that sustaining excellence, especially in complex and evolving business environments, requires some thoughtfulness. And we like to think of ourselves as a learning organization. And that's really what led us to reevaluate how we deliver learning opportunities to our employees. And it really fostered our partnership with Intellum. Earl in education services actually kind of latched on to Intellum, I'd say, about 2 years ago. And we had Intellum stood up for our arbitrators and mediators, and we evolved that to offer to our employees as well. We've found Intellum, if you're an Intellum customer, I think you probably had a similar experience. We found them to be very practical, flexible in their approach in helping us organize and build and manage our what we consider to be very effective learning programs. And their focus makes it easier to connect learning, for us at least, learning to performance. We're creating and updating training materials more efficiently, leveraging generative AI where we can, and delivering learning that's role-based and timely. We're also able to track and manage our learning progress more effectively as an organization. And that's really important because it's helped us to reduce friction in how we manage the training programs. And it's given us additional options that align not only with employee growth, but with organizational growth. Like many of you probably, maybe more than most, we were particularly challenged a little over a year ago when something called generative AI came onto the scene. We've had to navigate that. It's been a big, kind of a big sea to navigate, if you will, and it continues to broaden. And what we found most challenging about it is not only the disruption that it's causing to the legal services industry, but the consternation and anxiety that it's causing to our employees. So as generative AI tools became more accessible, more powerful, some might say incredibly disruptive, we saw that tension. And employees were curious, but they were also, as I said, very anxious. There were real questions about what AI would mean for their roles, what their value to the organization would be, and what their future to the organization would be. And so rather than ignore those warning signs or those kind of buoys on the sea, we chose to address them quite directly and lean into them. We started by being very clear from our executive level out throughout the organization that AI is not here to replace our people. It's here to support them in the work that we do. So we wanted to take an approach that was not only thoughtful, but human-centered and often nuanced. And that's not changing. What is changing is how we can work smarter, how we can reduce the repetitive or manual parts of our tasks, and how we can spend more time on what requires judgment and empathy and, frankly, expertise. We frame this as a very positive shift, one where jobs are becoming more interesting, more complex, and frankly, more strategic, and not less. And to turn that into action, we built something we're quite proud of, a generative AI certificate program, which was designed to give our employees structured hands-on exposure to the tools and use cases that are relevant to their roles. So it's not theoretical, it's practical. We've focused on how to think about AI ethically and effectively, and how to use it to complement what we're already doing and the human decision making. And we're finding that we're building confidence in our employees through that real experimentation, and we're supporting that environment. The certificate program, which you're going to hear more about in just a couple of minutes, is now part of our internal learning path, and it's one of the ways we're helping people lean into this moment and not just react to it. So as we continue to evolve our approach to learning, we're doing it with a purpose. We're empowering our people to adapt, to contribute, and to lead, and with both confidence and clarity. And with that, I'm going to turn the program over to Sandy Barrett, who's going to share more about the program and how it's helping bring generative AI to life across our organization.
Thank you, Eric. As Eric shared, this has been a year of growth and change for the AAA. And in learning and development, we're really leaning into that change. For us, it wasn't just about rolling out a new system or adding more training. It was about asking, how do we prepare our staff for the future? And how do we give them the confidence to use new tools in ways that can make their work easier, smarter, and more impactful? So when we set out to update the LMS, we knew we wanted more than just a system to hold courses. We were looking for something that could really grow with us, and something that gave us the flexibility to customize learning experiences and robust features to bring new ideas to life. It's why we chose this platform. It wasn't just about transferring courses that we already had. It was about opening the door to create new types of training, like our AI certificate program. It simply wouldn't have been possible before. In other words, the platform became the foundation for us to reimagine learning, not just to manage it. AI was a turning point for us, just like Eric said. We know it's not just a trend, it's something that is already changing the way all of us are working. And we knew if we wanted our staff to feel ready and not overwhelmed, we had to give them the space to learn, to practice, and explore how AI could actually help them in their day-to-day work. So instead of treating AI as a side topic, we made it central to the learning strategy. We asked ourselves, how do we give people fluency, not just awareness? How do we make sure they feel confident experimenting while also using AI responsibly and ethically? That's where the idea for the AI certificate program came in. We built the program with 2 tracks because not everyone is starting from the same place. The first track is the AI Foundations path for staff who want to understand the basics. It covers what AI is and what it isn't, how it can and can't be used, ethical considerations, and most importantly, hands-on practice for everyday tasks. The second track is the AI Mastery path for those ready to go deeper. This one dives into advanced prompt engineering, automating workflows, and applying AI strategically to solve real business challenges. Some staff have chosen to do both. They complete the foundation certificate, and then they jump into the mastery path to learn even more and to refine their processes. When selecting the courses for each path, we were very intentional about balance. We included traditional training on core skills, like prompting and research, but also paired those with articles and resources on how AI is reshaping the workplace and expanding what's possible. The idea was to stretch people's imaginations. So by the time they reached the capstone, they weren't just checking a box. They were inspired to create something meaningful and directly relevant to their role. So that meant that I had to look for non-traditional sources for learning, as well as using training from our learning partner. It took longer to put together, but the outcome was well worth it. But the part of the certificate programs I'm really proud of is the capstone project. Everyone who completes the program has to apply what they've learned to their own role in their project. We didn't just want this certificate program to be theoretical. We wanted it to be real life, and that's where the magic happens. And those capstones have been inspiring. We've had case administrators design AI-enabled guides to help new staff navigate complex procedures. And also because what we do can be very complicated for people that have never arbitrated before. And many of the projects that we're seeing are around figuring out how to help those people understand the process or our rules while still maintaining our neutrality, which is very important to our work. We've had some finance staff that have explored how AI could stream their workflows, and some people creating custom GPTs. One was to specifically work as their partner to support their everyday work. These things were built by people closest to the work with support from leadership to bring their ideas to life. And that's what makes them so meaningful. They reflect our culture of innovation. In fact, 2 of our 6 organizational values are: we innovate and improve continuously, and we educate and solve problems. The certificates and capstones are a direct expression of those values in action. They show that our staff aren't just learning new skills. They're applying them to make the AAA stronger, smarter, and better every day. And the response has been incredible. Participation has come from across the organization, from operations to HR to finance, as well as at all levels of the organization, from frontline staff to vice presidents. When we launched the program, I really wasn't sure how much interest we'd see. New programs can often take time to gain traction, but the immediate response showed me that staff were ready, more ready than I realized. And what makes that especially meaningful is knowing how busy everyone already is. We don't have a shortage of regular work. The fact that so many people have chosen to embrace this training, which is fully optional, says a lot about our staff. It reinforces how dedicated they are, how much they want to learn and grow, and how they see the value in preparing for the future. As an organization, we'll be celebrating our 100th anniversary next year, which is a huge milestone. But even as we look back with pride, we're not standing still. We're excited to grow, adapt, and expand with the times. And this program is one example of how we're doing exactly that. I'm especially proud that a group of staff chose to enroll in both the foundations and mastery paths. It shows not only their curiosity and commitment to exploring what's possible with AI, but also how much they valued the training itself, since they were willing to commit an additional 10 plus hours of learning to deepen those skills. And what we've heard from feedback is, it doesn't just feel like extra training. It's training that makes the work they already do easier, faster, and in some cases, more enjoyable. To give everybody a sense of scale, so far, nearly a third of our staff have already enrolled in at least one of the certificate paths, and several staff members have already completed the program with a successful capstone project. They didn't just learn about AI, they adapted it in their role and delivered a real solution. One of the lessons I personally learned while building this program was just how much AI could support me as a designer of learning experiences. I used it as a partner throughout the process. At the very beginning, I asked AI to help me research what certificate programs could look like, and then I tailored those ideas to fit AAA's needs. I also used it to help me search for courses that would teach the exact skills we wanted staff to learn. And importantly, skills tied to the tools we already use, so the training feels immediately relevant. AI even helped me create assessments for courses that didn't come with them. That gave staff a way to check their understanding and made the experience more interactive and measurable. I also used AI to draft outlines and learning objectives, brainstorm capstone examples, and to blend traditional modules with forward-looking articles that would stretch people's imagination. And to be honest, my first attempts using AI, they weren't perfect. I remember asking it to draft an outline for the foundation's path, and it gave me something that looked fine on the surface, but didn't really fit our organization. It was a good reminder that AI is a partner, not an expert. I had to adjust, refine, and customize it for our staff. And that's exactly what I encourage our learners to do with their own projects. Don't expect perfection on the first try. Think of AI as a brainstorming partner that helps you get started faster. Another lesson we learned was through the capstone submissions themselves. Some of the first projects we received weren't always clear on the hands-on requirement. That feedback helped us to adjust how we explained the capstone and even how we graded it. I used AI to help refine the wording, the guidelines, and feedback emails so we could set more clearer expectations. The iterative process, listening, adjusting, and improving was a big part of making the program stronger. And finally, AI also supported us in communications and engagement. Beyond designing the courses, I used it to help draft SharePoint newsfeed posts, internal announcements, and certificate communications. This not only saved me time, but also ensured that staff were consistently encouraged and informed. It was another way AI became a valuable partner in bringing the program to life. Another lesson, similar Eric had already mentioned, was around change management. We realized some staff were concerned about whether AI was here to replace them. And we made it clear, AI is not a replacement for our people. It's a partner. It enhances the expertise and judgment that they already bring to their work. And finally, none of this would have been possible without collaboration. We worked hand in hand with IT, our innovation partners, education services, and leadership to make sure that we could move quickly, but also responsibly. Looking ahead, our priority in learning and development is to keep this program dynamic. AI is moving quickly, and that means our courses have to evolve too. I'm already working on refreshing modules with new examples and updated use cases so the training stays current. We also want to create more opportunities for staff to showcase what they've built. When someone finishes a capstone project, it's not just valuable for them. It could spark ideas for others. That's why we're encouraging staff to share their projects with colleagues, and then when it makes sense, maybe submit them to our innovation department for review. If an idea has the potential to benefit the organization at scale, we want to explore how to bring it to life more broadly. Ultimately, our goal is to ensure that learning about AI isn't a one-time event, but an ongoing journey. One where staff continue to grow, experiment, and bring back ideas that strengthen the AAA. And we're also working to build stronger connections between what we do internally for staff and what our education services team is doing externally for arbitrators and mediators. Because our vision is that the AAA grows together with our staff and with the professionals we serve. At the end of the day, our internal training has been about giving people confidence. Confidence to use AI, confidence to experiment, and to see it as a tool that helps them shine in their work. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Earl and Michael, who will share how we're extending the same vision to arbitrators, mediators, and legal professionals.
Hey, thank you, Sandy. I really appreciate that. And greetings to everyone. So now that you've heard from Eric and Sandy, who oversee education for our internal staff, I'd like to share the role that Michael and I play and how Intellum supports our mission. I like the way Sandy talked about collaboration because we are using the same platform, but in very different ways for very different audiences. Our focus is the education of our affiliate members. That would be the arbitrators and mediators who serve on our AAA panel. And we also serve the arbitration advocates, as well as more broadly, anyone across the globe interested in learning about arbitration, mediation, and alternative dispute resolution. As Eric and Sandy noted, the AAA is in the midst of significant transformation. And as we approach our 100th anniversary in 2026, we continue to be a leader in alternative dispute resolution. We have been putting a lot of focus, as you've heard, about advancing technology and AI, not only internally, but within alternative dispute resolution and with our partners, our affiliate and advocates, and along with access to justice. To reach our goals, it was clear we needed a learning management platform capable of supporting and expanding our education initiatives. That's where Intellum comes in. While we continue to deliver foundational programs in arbitration and mediation, Intellum has allowed us to broaden our offerings with innovative programs focused on technology and AI. For example, we've shared our AI transformational journey as a resource for law firms and hosted programs that help arbitrators, mediators, advocates understand how to use high-tech tools developed specifically for their practice. We also offered a required annual course this past year for arbitrators, and the topic was navigating technology and arbitration. So you can see where our focus has been. With Intellum, we now have the ability to create structured learning pathways, what Intellum refers to as paths. This has opened the door for developing more comprehensive programs such as the AAA Arbitration Advocate Certificate Program, which we are currently piloting. And I'm going to let Michael Rodriguez, our education liaison, talk more about this initiative in a moment. But before I do, I also want to mention a very important piece that Intellum has allowed us to do, and that's with reporting and data. As with all organizations, as we continue to grow and evolve, we understand the importance of data, and that continues to grow. And the beautiful thing is that our interest in data within the company is matching our ability to gather that data and reporting like never before with the ability of Intellum. So Michael, would you like to share more about the Advocate Certificate Program and how Intellum has helped bring it to life?
Yes, thank you so much to Earl for laying that foundation, and also thank you to Sandy and Eric. It is always great getting the opportunity to work with both of you. So Earl has set the stage, and I'd like to sort of pivot the conversation to focus on some of the transformation that we've been driving for our external audiences, and specifically the certificate program that Earl mentioned. So after we moved to the Intellum platform, a few of our colleagues approached us asking how we can help enhance a program that we've historically offered in person. So after some brainstorming with the team, we reimagined the certificate program into a new, far more engaging format. So the new version, it spans over 9 weeks, and it includes a mix of live Zoom classes, post-session surveys, weekly assignments, and that gets capstoned with a final assessment. So the advantage is that with Intellum, we can now house all of these elements in one place for participants. So here's how the process works. The participants enroll into the certificate path. Once enrolled, they get access to all 9 weeks of content. Now, each week, they have the ability to join our live Zoom sessions, which are taking place on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, they can join those classes right through the platform. Once the session concludes, they immediately get access to a post-session survey. And to sort of tag along what Earl mentioned as far as data, the post-session surveys are really critical for us because it allows us to gather feedback in real time so that we can pivot and make adjustments for future sessions. And the real advantage is we get to house all of that data within Intellum instead of relying on a third-party tool and have that data live elsewhere. And oh, I'm so sorry. But now, once the sessions conclude and we get the survey and the feedback, they get access to a homework assignment that's going to prepare them for the next week's topic. So at the conclusion of the program in all 9 weeks, a final assessment is given and participants have the opportunity to earn a Credly badge through Intellum's gamification system. So summarized, we're now able to offer live Zoom classes, capture feedback, assign homework, and check for understanding all in one place. So I feel like this is something that I can go on and on about, but that is a 10,000-foot view on just one of the projects that we're working with and are now empowered to accomplish with Intellum. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it back to the team.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for sharing those amazing, I can't even call them testimonials, but just a complete comprehensive readout of all the amazing work that you all have been doing. It's really, really impressive. So I want to turn this back over to the audience who have asked several questions. So this is now going to be a fun time to go through the questions and it'll be more of a discussion. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for the purpose of the questions, and we do have some slides towards the end, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so that we can have a fun little discussion. So again, if you haven't yet submitted your question, please do so. The chat or the Q&A box is still open. So I am going to address one question at a time, and whoever wants to take it, feel free to just come off mute and go for it. Okay. All right. So first question, is your capstone project cohort based?
It is not currently. That is something that we are considering in the future.
Amazing. Okay. We're going to go rapid fire through these. Another question, how do you market your programs internally? So you've mentioned that a lot of these are optional and things that folks can either choose to participate in or not. So what is the internal marketing of your programs and the certification option look like?
Sure. So, I referenced the fact that we're a learning organization, and one of our annual goals for staff is to complete so many hours of training. We think that's a best practice. Frankly, we think it ties closely to our employee engagement and development. But this year, the employees had a goal not just to complete so much training, but to complete at least 6 hours of training related to innovation or generative AI. And so we stood up the Capstone project alongside, or excuse me, the generative AI certificate program with the Capstone project. We stood that up alongside the courses that we already do offer. And we also encouraged folks to go outside the organization to take courses and learn, to watch webinars and webcasts and podcasts and those sorts of things. So the drive towards learning in this space is, it's motivated by hitting a goal. But I think importantly, there was buy-in from management, buy-in from leadership. In terms of marketing and internally, I think Sandy and her team partnered with HR to do a great job and get the message out to staff. And then it becomes word of mouth. As she said, over a third of our staff have already enrolled. We're hearing really great feedback from them. And I think, Sandy, we launched this just a couple of months ago. So this is not like it was launched in January. This is a really, really fresh program. So there's a lot of excitement and buzz. I was in a meeting yesterday with our president and CEO and a board member, and this came up, and they're very well aware of the Capstone projects. And they're like, these are great. We've looked at some of them. Yeah, it's been fun.
That's incredible. And Sandy, I saw that you came off mute. Did you want to add anything before we go to the next question?
Yeah, there's a few other things, like Eric said, that leadership supports us very well. And so, every once in a while when leadership has a message going out to all staff, they'll send a reminder that it's a great program and please consider it. And then also we do have a fairly robust SharePoint page for learning and development where people can go to get reminders, and they can get notifications about new trainings that we offer.
Awesome. Yeah, it's always nice to have that central hub, a place for folks to go. So I want to actually, this is not a question that's come through, but I want to double down on something that both you and Eric have mentioned, which is buy-in from leadership. This is a question we get, or just even a topic that gets addressed a lot, is how do you get buy-in from leadership? So do you all have any strategies or tips to share on, I see that this is a value of your organization, and so there's that, kind of direct influence, but how else have you gone about getting that executive level buy-in?
Maybe for us, it's a little bit easier because I'm in the C-suite. So, and Sandy and her team do roll up under me. But part of our mission is to educate. It's educating not only our employees and our arbitrators and mediators, but it's the public on the benefits of alternative dispute resolution. So education is ingrained in our DNA. And in terms of getting leadership buy-in here, it's never been difficult. There's an old saying about a CEO and a CHRO in a room, and the CHRO proposes spending $10,000 on each employee to train them, and I'm picking on CFOs, and I shouldn't, but the CFO's response is, "What if I spend that money and they leave?" And the CHRO's response is, "What if you don't spend that money and they stay?" So, it's anecdotal. Again, I don't mean to pick on CFOs. We have great CFO. Our CFO is wonderful here. But I think that's the buy-in. Like, you need to invest in your people as much as you need to invest in your systems and your marketing. So I'll be quiet and let my colleagues chime in as well if they see differently.
No, I think that's correct. And the other part is that our organization is very big on making sure that what we ask for is aligned with our priorities and our strategy. And so as long as I can tie things in and make that case, then, as Eric said, we get good buy-in.
I love it, which is the underbelly of the education-led growth framework, is tying everything to business outcomes. Yes. Okay.
And if I can add,
Yeah, Earl, please.
because not only internally, we talk a lot about it as we work together, and the buy-in, because we work with the business to really understand the education that we need to provide externally, especially for our affiliated partners, right? Our arbitrators and mediators. We work with them very closely at all levels of the company to determine what that is every year, even that course that I said is required. So we have a great relationship with all of leadership.
That's awesome. Kudos to you and your team for that piece in particular. Okay, I'm going to continue on with the questions. We have about 4 more. So, next one. Sandy, I think this one's more specific to you. So, how did you go about developing the curriculum for your AI program? I know you mentioned a little bit about that, but something that comes up, is this idea of AI slop. So, AI is going to give you information and you kind of have to vet it, right? So, how did you go about vetting? I think could be an additional a question here, but how did you vet the curriculum as you were building it, as AI was giving you some information?
Yeah, so because AI is here, AI is now, I didn't have time to create modules myself for this program. So we looked externally. That meant that AI gave me guidance to where to look for those courses, some ideas, but it did not, the specifics to what was relevant to us was not there. So I spent many hours watching those courses and making sure that they were the right fit before I said, yes, this is the one for us. So AI can save you time, but also sometimes you just have to put the time in yourself to make sure that you get the right courses for your path, to make sense for your learners.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, this is kind of a follow-up to that, maybe, is how did you know which tracks to create? So you mentioned the 2 different tracks, the start and then the mastery. So did you do that based on an assessment or some sort of survey to know where folks were at? Like, what was your starting?
So our organization has a really robust innovation department, and they also often have trainings. We have an AI enablement partner. And so, yes, some of that was feedback from those departments. And we knew that some people were already using AI consistently. We knew other people were a little bit terrified of it. And then some people who were curious, but they hadn't really done anything yet. So we didn't want to offer something, although we want everybody to learn about AI, we didn't want to offer something that only applied to those people that were newbies. So we wanted to make something more challenging for people that were at a more advanced stage. So that's where I came up with the 2. I probably could have come up with even more, but yeah, we wanted to stand this up and get it out there.
Yeah, it's an excellent starting point for sure. Okay, 2 more questions. Were the tracks specific to the particular org or role that a participant was coming from?
No, they are not. They are more specific to that they were relevant to the type of work we do and also to the platforms that we use. So we have Microsoft, we have ChatGPT. I'm out there looking for courses that apply to things. I'm not going to pull out a IBM type course or a Google course because it just wouldn't. Although AI is the same in that it's prompting and things like that, the language they use keeps referring to their product. So I made sure that it was relevant to the things that we were using and the things that we were doing and able to do. Because of the work that we do, we are very, it's a very important to us about security. And so that's another aspect that we always have to keep in mind when we're introducing things and telling people what they can and can't experiment with.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense for confidentiality and things like that. Yeah. Okay, Michael and Earl, I think this next question is for you. Which metrics or what metrics are you tracking for your 9-week course? And I'm going to add a bonus question. How?
Okay, that's a great question. Let me think about that for a minute. We're piloting the program, number 1, for content purposes, right? This is the first time we're rolling something like this out. So our focus is really ensuring it's the right content. We've worked with 2 law firms that were kind enough to partner with us on this to develop, to work the pilot and get a lot of great feedback. So the metrics were, one of the things, of course, is attendance, right? Because it's a 9-week program. That's a long time for people to attend, and it's virtual. We wanted to go that route, thinking that people have a busy lives, especially with lawyers, law firms, advocates, to make sure that they were able to attend. And we can do this across the nation versus having it, in one location, maybe for 2 days straight. So we are very closely looking at attendance metrics. We did give them the opportunity to complete it. If they missed a session, I'm not saying they can't complete the course because they've already invested a lot of time. So what Michael and I have done is we record all of the sessions, and then we place the recording in Intellum as an option. So we look at, say, if you didn't complete the or the live session, then you have the option, at least for 2 sessions, to do it through the recording. And so that we have to track and complete, right, and manage that to say that they've actually completed it to get absolutely complete. Now, we've also included a final assessment. So that'll be a piece of it too. Before they complete it, they have to get an 80 percentile or better to make sure that they're actually complete. As I said, this is the beginning stages. We do need to look at what our return on investment would be, and when we roll it out, and make sure, is this something, a lot of questions are coming out of this. Is this better as a virtual or is it in person? But from what we can tell, and we're using the survey tool within Intellum as well, which is really great, so that every week we're asked them to do the survey and give us feedback on a regular basis. And then we're going to have a final survey as well. And Michael alluded to the fact of the homework or home study assignment that they do, and they do that through Intellum. So we're looking at all, is that actually helping? Is that something that they are actually doing? Or are they doing the survey but not doing the home study assignment? So when we complete this pilot, we're going to compile all of that information. But of course, there's a lot more metrics as we run the program continuously to see how we can improve it and look at the data in terms of getting feedback, attendance, etc.
Amazing, Michael. Anything to add? I see you nodding along.
Yeah, no, I think Earl summarized it well, and really the post-session surveys are really important for us because again, this is a pilot, and we want to know is what we're doing currently now going to work once we go live. So being able to capture and track that week by week feedback from all of the participants, it's almost critical to getting the program out when we go in live, because again, we want to know and make sure that what we've currently provided is meaningful and it's impactful, and that they're leaving with what they need to be empowered to advocate in arbitration. So those post-session surveys, even though it isn't a specific number metric that we're tracking, it's the feedback that we're looking at week by week to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Sure. Yeah, that quantitative data tells a bigger story for sure. Okay, that is the conclusion of the questions that came through. However, if you have not yet submitted a question, there is still time. I am going to share my screen once again. And in the spirit of AI being, like we've heard about in this session, a hot topic, it's not going anywhere. We at Intellum created a learning leader's guide. That's hard to say for the 5th time today. A learning leader's guide to AI. So I'm going to share my screen. There will be a QR code there if you all are interested in downloading that. And then I want to invite you all to join us for our second to last session. We have 2 more sessions of today's summit. So I am going to drop a link in the chat to the next session, which we hope you all will join. And then I'd like to invite you lastly to say thank you to our friends who are here with us today and for presenting this amazing information. Eric, Michael, Sandra, Earl, this was amazing. Thank you so much. Congratulations to you and your team for the amazing work that you're doing. We know this isn't an easy feat to stand up something in a short amount of time, and particularly standing up 9 weeks of curriculum. So that's incredible. You all should be very, very happy for the work that you've done. If you haven't already, scan the QR code. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so everyone on here can say goodbye. Thank you to you all, and thank you all who joined us. We hope to see you in the next session.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So much.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.